all too familiar.
Carmelo Anthony is officially signed with the Rockets on a deal that Woj reports is for 1 year, $2.4 million. Woj's report also states that Melo will have the opportunity to compete for a starting spot, but he could also come off the bench for the first time in his career. Here's what happened last year when Melo was asked about coming off the pine.
How do you feel about coming off the bench? And the second question is...
Who, me?
Oh. I guess that answers that part.
I mean, I don't know where that started, where that came from. Hey, P, they said I got to come off the bench.
So, Royce, you got to see it up close with Melo all last season in OKC, and you were there for that, I'm sure, too. So, do you think Melo is open to the idea of coming off the bench at this stage?
Look, all necessary prerequisites here that, I've been told that there's been no decision made, that Carmelo Anthony and Mike D'Antoni have had some preliminary discussions, and no role has been decided. And I think Woj kind of, cleared that up with a tweet this morning. But to do my best Brian Windhorst impression here, I would be stunned if Carmelo Anthony came off the bench this year. And a lot of that is just mindset. Look, he even talked about some of the sacrifices that he's made and changing his mindset with going from a player that is getting traded and waived. That's an ego hit there. Then he takes another ego hit to sign a vet minimum contract. And then you're asking him to take another one by coming off the bench. I was always told last year that that's a bridge too far for Carmelo Anthony. And look, I think that the Thunder are probably looking to stretch and waive him or buy him out or trade him in any circumstance. But if Carmelo Anthony had been willing to come off the bench for the Thunder, there's a chance that he could still be in Oklahoma City right now, because that's a role that they presented to him and that they were interested in him potentially filling. So for him to go to Houston and be open to it, I've got to see it to believe it.
Yeah. Kevin, is he more amenable to it potentially because Chris Paul's there and there's an actual real relationship between those two?
No, if he is amenable to it, it's because necessity is the mother of invention.
Okay.
It's because that is the role for him. Although I actually like him as the starting 3-4, wherever you put Tucker or he in that role. I mean, look, for Houston, this is a good acquisition. They're paying $2.4 million for a guy who will give them more than $2.4 million in production. Whatever deficiencies exist in his game, and we'll talk about them later with Kevin Pelton. It's a good value deal for them, and it's a relatively good fit. I mean, the thing I worry about with him is he always said, well, I didn't love my role in OKC, implying that standing in the corner or being stretching the floor. But I just don't see a scenario where posting up Carmelo Anthony is necessarily going to be good offense in a team that already has two guys who command the ball. And he wasn't a terribly effective post-up player last year.
The interesting part to me is, and I actually think that bench Melo could succeed.
That's the new name?
Bench Melo. Hoodie Melo, right? You got bench Melo.
Second unit Melo.
Yeah, I just think it makes sense because he can get some Melo time, right? Where you can stagger him, whether it was in OKC with those guys or now in Houston, and he can get some of that time to be who he wants to be, who he's used to being on the floor. So I think that coming off the bench allows him to do that more. It becomes more of a challenge for Mike D'Antoni in this situation if he's got to stagger the minutes if he's starting.
This is why I absolutely agree with you. Among the 192 players who took 500 shots last year, he was 175th in shot quality. How do you get better shots on the floor? You play against lesser defenders.
Right.
And I think to the extent that he's having trouble getting good shots, he's always been a guy who could hit difficult shots, but this will enable him to just, by definition, by just the sheer conditions of the game, get better shots.